Purpose, your passion, your path. Quote, do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Phil was on his way back from a time management and personal planning seminar. This one was costly, $1,500 for the entrance fee and sacrificing 3 days, his entire long weekend, when there were many things that needed tending to around the house. His young son and daughter were home with a sitter while his wife worked for the weekend. Phil had been doing well as a senior manager in a local wealth management firm. To others, he appeared to have it all together. He was always an example of hard work, seemed to be well organized, and was a good family man. But inside, Phil felt like he was living someone else's life. He didn't want to be ungrateful for all he had, but there were a lot of sacrifices along the way, and he just felt like there was something more that he was called to be. Now approaching his late 30s, if there was a time to make a change, this was the time. Coming back from the seminar had given him more ideas and energy than ever before, but still, there was an elusive thought. In the back of his mind, he felt like he had the tools to move forward, but didn't have clarity on what that future looked like, and he was desperate to put it into focus. Mary's story was a little bit different. She felt like she had really landed a great job, good career path, and rare employment opportunity 7 months ago with an up-and-coming graphic arts and marketing firm. She liked the neighborhood where the office was located so much that she got an apartment 2 blocks away from her office in a trendy, eclectic part of town. Her work was interesting and fulfilling. Then last month, the senior partner came in and told her that they were downsizing and closing the office. They were generous with her severance package since she had just moved and was banking on this job. She estimated she had about 3 months of living expenses after cutting back in every area she could before she had to be settled into a new job. She was just finishing up a week-long career development seminar that was part of her severance package. Most of the information was interesting, but the topics were mostly things she already knew: resume building, job searching, developing interview skills. These were things she felt very confident about. However, there was one session that stirred her more deeply than the others. A local restaurant owner came in and shared his experience of starting his first restaurant. He shared stories of the sacrifice and commitment that were necessary, especially in the early years. There was one thing he said that stuck in the back of her mind, and she couldn't get it out. He said, quote, I ultimately would have failed if I didn't have a passion for what I do and an ability to see the finished product. End quote. That thought haunted her. What was her passion? What was that thing that she would sacrifice for? Was she being too idealistic to even have those thoughts? Shouldn't she just be concerned about getting a job, saving up for a starter home, and meeting the man of her dreams? Bob and Sue had just flown back from Michigan, where they finally sold the home they had lived in for the past 25 years. It was bittersweet. They knew their time there was over. The kids were grown, had lives of their own, and had scattered across the country. Now Bob and Sue finally had a chance to enjoy their retirement condo in Florida. After all, wasn't this what they had been planning for? They were 6 months into their retirement. Both of them felt fit and healthy in their late 60s. But more and more, day by day, they had begun to experience a sinking feeling that they had made a mistake somewhere. There were no surprises or real pain points in their newly found retirement life. Their new community was as expected, pleasant, and quiet. They had planned well financially, which allowed them to eat out a couple nights a week and maintain a membership at the local golf course country club. But night after night, as they ate dinner together, They wondered if they had made the right decision, or had they just bought into a plan that wasn't truly theirs. For almost 20 years, I have heard and analyzed hundreds of stories like these. The individuals have different names, different details, and various locations and circumstances, but they all follow seemingly scripted patterns. My interest and focus on creating and refining life strategies started in my late 20s as I began to have more employees and did some counseling at the church I attended. I've always been a people person and have tried personally and professionally to lend a hand and some sound advice where I could. My study grew from a casual interest to a deep desire for understanding and competency. Some stories were difficult to hear, and I often felt grossly ill equipped to give advice. What started as a small leisurely pursuit became a core of my life study. From undergraduate and doctoral degree to my business and pastoral career, there has been a common question: how can I help people live a fulfilling life? The two approaches to life planning. On the last day of a sold out conference I was hosting, a young lady named Karen came to me and said something that completely changed my perspective on the topic of life planning. The conference was designed for business owners who were attempting to break through to a new level of success. I had co hosted 15 events like this, which had all sold out, and the feedback on the long term effectiveness was astonishing. The conference was wrapping up. It was the early afternoon of the last day of the weekend event. I was feeling confident, validated, and quite proud of all we had accomplished together. Karen approached me as I was drinking a cup of coffee on the back deck of the mountain lodge where our event was being held. I was watching the last of the low-lying mist disappear from the valley when Karen asked if she could chat with me. She was in her mid-30s and had already grown two impressive consumer electronics companies. And now, after having sold one of them, she was looking for direction for the next season of her life. "I wanted to thank you for an amazing weekend," she started off. "Everything, the material, the food, the venue, has been first class," she continued. And then there was a long pause, which I knew meant there was a deeper question or concern. "Karen, feel free to say what's on your mind," I said. "You may have a question that others are considering as well, and I appreciate any feedback you can give us." "I've read a lot of your material, and this is the second conference I have attended, but I think there is something wrong with me. I'm just not able to get it like everyone else. I have some type of blockage, or maybe it's something I just can't figure out." She was visually shaken, so I asked her to sit and reassured her for a while. But as she began to articulate her perceived conflict, I realized she was not the one with the problem. I was the one with the problem. Or more clearly, there was a major hole in what I had been teaching, and Karen fell right into it. I've spent years trying to understand the problem that Karen unfolded that day. From there, as I looked back through conference surveys and emails from readers, I realized she wasn't alone. Many had tried to express similar thoughts. Until the conversation with Karen, my approach to life planning had a singular path. This was the same path that many of those I work with had promoted as well. As I re-examined material from other popular authors and presenters on the topics of life planning and personal coaching, I saw similar gaps, holes, and deficiencies in their material. My approach, which had helped so many, had a common theme that follows a familiar script. First, begin to understand yourself and your environment, then gain clarity on the goals of the life plan you are seeking to accomplish. The more clarity you can get on your future direction and future self, the better. Equally important is to align your passion with your newly defined direction. The more clarity you can achieve, and the more it aligns with your passion, the more you will be able to generate the thrust to attain a fulfilling future. Let me state clearly that I still absolutely believe this to be true. I will continue to write about and present this information. But Karen helped me to realize that this was not the singular answer for all individuals in all walks of life. If this was my only approach, I would be doing a great disservice to many people. On that day, Karen said, I've never had complete clarity before starting any of my ventures. I have gone through all the exercises and spent a considerable time in prayer, but I have never gotten high level clarity or high level focused passion about any of my past successful pursuits. Karen was successful and living a rich and fulfilling life, but because I and others had been so singular in our approach to life planning, she felt she was somehow not measuring up. Many people can gain high level clarity about the precise nature and composition of their future, and they can couple this with high level passion using the tools and techniques in the material that I and others have promoted. For others, clarity is elusive. The picture and definition of their future seem shrouded. I've come to discover that this lack of clarity occurs almost as frequently as the high level clarity individuals. I feel the material ahead is equally applicable to both types of people, those with extreme clarity about their future and those who have a desire for transition, but only have a general feel for what their future entails. Neither group is wrong, and they are equally common. These two perspectives can often occur in the same individual at different seasons of life. For one group of individuals, let's call these the clarions. They will use the material ahead to achieve high level clarity and high level passion for their fulfilling life. Using the practical tactics and resources from the material ahead, they will create a plan that leads to their fulfilling future. They will use the material in the 3C Companion Guide to chart their course. The second group of individuals, let's call these the voyagers, will have equally fulfilling, rewarding lives, but find their direction much differently. While clarions have a very specific, definable destination in mind, voyagers have more of a general compass heading. Think of it like this. The clarions are able to get an exact destination and plug it into their internal GPS system. Although they may get rerouted from time to time due to traffic accidents or detours, their destination remains constant. In contrast, voyagers have a general sense of heading or purpose, but no real clear idea of the destination. Voyagers know instinctively that where they are right now is not their final destination, and they have a general idea of how they should be moving forward, but their approach to life planning will be completely different than the clarions. If their life planning approach does not take this into account, they can often have the same experience as Karen. They can feel everyone else gets it, but they do not. This can lead to frustration, a self-defeating mindset, and often inactivity toward any goals. Most of the life and career development material that I've researched works well for clarions, but it needs significant adjustments for those in the Voyager category. Even if you are a consummate clarion, there can be Voyager seasons in life. While at one point in time, you may have a crystal clear objective and aligning passion for your life, there may be other areas of your life that may be vague, and you only have a general directional heading. Voyagers, or maybe those of us in a Voyager season, can miss out on opportunities to develop and refine our life plans if we wait for clarion vision and strategies. If we don't give room for this distinction and understanding, we will have major issues in our life plan. If you are a Voyager, or simply an individual in a Voyager state of life, and you encounter material that continuously directs you to get more and more clarity, this can result in frustration and despair. It could also lead to something even more dangerous. It could stall your initiative or keep you from seeing a way to move forward. It's simply not how you are internally wired. Again, both Clarions and Voyagers are valid and can achieve equal levels of a fulfilling, rewarding, and enriching life. However, the approaches will be vastly different. I knew a man who, as a young boy, was fascinated with the insect world. His life revolved around catching, quantifying, and identifying every creeping, crawling thing he could find. In high school, he was drawn to biology and science. In college, he knew that he wanted to study various species of insects and their effect on crops and our environment. He only focused on applying to universities with noted programs in these specific areas. Today, he is one of the most successful, well researched, and well published authors on the subject of certain types of insects. He is fulfilled and enriched as he engages in his dream job on a daily basis. He is an extreme example of a clarion. His approach is significant to understand. First, his life goals were aligned with his passion. We will talk about how important this is in later chapters. Secondly, he began to narrowly define the objectives of his fulfilling life. Third, he concentrated his efforts and his resources to get the training and education and to position himself for the opportunities that would propel him, thrust him into that place of his most fulfilling life. On the other side of the spectrum, there's a friend of mine who is a great statesman who has represented some of the world's most influential leaders. He has been behind the scenes, participating in some of the most critical global events of our time. He told me that nothing he has done of extreme significance came from a clear, predefined plan. He simply had a general direction and a vague feeling of the destination he was looking for. He coupled this with having the faith and perception to take opportunities as they presented themselves that seemed to align with his general sense of purpose and direction. He would find himself in circumstances where he would have a busy week planned and an opportunity to travel to a distant country would present itself out of the blue. Somehow, he knew to put other things aside and capitalize on this opportunity. These seemingly arbitrary circumstances led him to some of his most fulfilling and enriching achievements. He is a highly effective, fulfilled Voyager. The material ahead is designed to help and profit both Clarions and Voyagers. I've also taken the time to include personal stories and reflections from my life, which fall into both categories. The three circle strategy chapters, the accompanying 3C exercises at the end of each section, and the material in the 3C companion guide will aid you, whether you're crystal clear and passionate about your future life, or you're trying hard to define your path. In both instances, you'll find the material easy to understand and easy to apply.